Dayton Utility Board is now in session. Everyone's here? I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes for meeting July 9th, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the utility board meeting minutes from July 9th, 2018.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Let's try the microphones now.
Claims docket, August 6th, 2018.
Make a motion to move the claims docket to the regular board meeting.
Second.
A motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Adjustment report, Alex.
Okay. Most of them, as you see on here, are, there's, I think, 2 or 3 pool credits. One is Burmeister, he gets a 6,000 gallon, and one with the 2 on one. And then there are 2 accounts that is just transferring from tenant to landlord. So, there's nothing special.
Make a motion to approve the adjustment report.
Second.
And motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Clerk treasurer report.
The only thing that I have for this meeting, sorry, I'm trying to project a little bit, is the option to increase hours. What we have currently is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 3. What I am proposing is adding Tuesday, Thursday, 5 to 7. That gives people to get off a little later, a couple extra hours. Cost-wise, Michelle is now back into the bus route, so she is leaving at 1. It will actually, she'll be down, I think, another 2 hours. So instead of 18, she's going to be at 16, so it will not cost any more money. That is just to give people a little bit extra time to come in here on those days that we are currently closed, and then that gives also a little bit later. So that is kind of my proposal for you guys to think about that.
So we're still saving money because when we took over, we cut it way down. So that we're still spending less than what we used to.
Yes.
Because you're only open 3 days.
Now we would be open on 5. 2 days would just be down.
It's better.
I make a motion to change the hours as per Alex's description there.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So that is all I have for this meeting.
Joe, do you have anything for utilities? All right. Anyone with new and old business for utilities?
Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane. I was glad to see you guys approve the change in hours, because I didn't hear that when it changed the first time. And there's a couple things I want to say. One, about the change. It'd be nice to see the hours change so that it actually is convenient for the people of the town instead of what's convenient for the people that work in the office. You know, we're working our schedule around what's convenient for them instead of what's convenient for the townspeople who are paying for it. I've heard Joe say many times that the minutes are supposed to provide the historical record of the proceedings, yet the minutes you guys approve month after month are inaccurate in so many ways. And I'd like to point out an example. In the minutes you just approved, it says that I talked about hours and hiring of Michelle last month. I actually talked about the duties and responsibilities of the Service Utility Board and how you all are not fulfilling those responsibilities tasked to you by Indiana code. That was the whole point, and yes, the hours and the hiring and compensation of the utility clerk were one of the things that you hadn't approved, or were some of the things. But I also pointed out to you how unfair it was to utility customers that you allowed so many of the payment functions to be outsourced to a third party, resulting in the payers to be assessed an extra fee. You're essentially forcing people to pay twice, once for a full-time clerk and the part-time utility clerk, and again, when they make their payment, they pay an extra fee. And I also pointed out that those wishing to pay by credit card had no other option but to use the third-party payment vendor and to pay the required fee. The town hasn't accepted credit cards in the office for what, about 2 months now, approximately? So I'd like to draw your attention to chapter 50 in the town's ordinance book. It's 50.01, titled Acceptance of Credit and Debit Cards for Payment. It says this: the town will accept payment by credit card or bank card for water, sewage, and trash services and for meter deposits owed the town. For purposes of this section, credit cards shall include debit card, charge card, or stored value card. Any charge to the town for the use of the credit card or bank card by the payer will not be collected from the payer. Now, I just pointed out to you that the town has not accepted credit cards for at least 2 months, which has caused utility customers to use the third-party service and pay the fee. By not accepting credit cards, you're violating the town's own ordinance. Customers who have paid through the third party should have the amount of the fees credited to their account, and the town should immediately acquire a means to accept credit cards in the office again to become compliant with the ordinance. I know for a fact that there are services that allow you to start accepting credit cards within a day. So, what are you intending to do about that? Yeah, it's a response I always get. So,
I think we ought to accept credit cards and make it easier on people that walk in here. You know, as a clerk for 12 years.
Credit card online?
You can't pay with credit card.
but you have
It's
to
a
pay a fee. You can't
Pay
pay without
twice.
a fee. You're charged the extra fee if you pay online. Whether you pay by credit card, check, or bank draft, or however you pay online, you're paying a fee.
Sounds like one of those things where we need to clean up the ordinance a little bit, maybe.
I knew you were gonna do
Yeah, they'll
that.
change the ordinance.
Rather than look out for the people of the town, you'll change the ordinance to accommodate your clerk.
Well, it kind of sounds like what you would like to do is have an increased rate to the water with the system you're trying to go with, like adding more hours for people.
No,
No, that's
There's-
exactly what you
no,
did.
it's not. It's going back to what it was before
It's
this.
going back to, but there's inflation.
Well,
We don't know about inflation.
do you know how much Michelle is making? You're the president of the utility board. How
Yeah,
much is she
We
making?
were paying somewhere
Because-
around,
because-
That's a very.
And that's public record, Tyrone.
we were paying to accept credit, debit cards and stuff like that,
That's
a pretty substantial amount.
It,
And there's many, many people that, in this town that don't use that method of payment, they pay by check,
that's right.
as far as
But the
cheaper.
people that do
So-
use it need to use it.
Right, and, you know, like so many services that people use, you know, if you need to use that service, then, you know, a lot of times there's a cost associated with it, a fee or something like that.
But you
You know,
have
should-
an ordinance
should
that
all
say
of-
it shouldn't be passed on to the customer. That's your
We have
ordinance.
100-some people that use the credit card in the office. We have tons of checks that they came in and wrote the checks, because some people do not like to get online and pay their stuff online. Other ones want to come in here and look, 90% of them, when they pay in here, they ask what their bill is and how did they get there and where did these charges come and from all that. And then they write out a check or they run a MasterCard through, so I think you're.
So should the people that are paying with check pay the cost so that, in your case, 100 and some people can pay with is that
That's-
fair for people that pay cash and pay check to have that fee that the town is paying to do the credit?
We were paying a fee before for to help our people,
Right.
so they could walk in here and
That's
take care of their
And that was
business.
included in the water, the utilities budget, so in essence,
Yeah.
everybody, whether they use that.
Well, sure, and,
Sure.
and actually, if somebody doesn't even run a tap for a whole month, they also pay $75 minimum fee, and they've been out of town for 6 months, whether they use it or not.
You're-
It's spread out, everything's
That-
spread out.
That
so-
was put in an ordinance because of our loans that we got through the federal
It is.
government, we had to do that.
But it's still so everybody in this town, some gain a little here and some gain a little there. Every ordinance is made up though for to compensate the person out there, the resident, so it made their life a little easier. You know,
It
it
is
wasn't,
It's not uncommon in this world that we live in to have fees attached to using credit cards, debit cards, that sort of thing.
It's not, it's what's uncommon is not being able to walk into an office and make the payment without being charged an extra fee. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure it's
You don't have
legal
to walk into office to be charged that extra fee, you can do it online.
You have to do it online, that's the only way that, before, people could walk in the office and use their credit card and not, they think their bill's high enough, they don't need to pay that.
I'm more
extra.
concerned about the hours that this office is open.
In the world of security, having multiple people handle credit cards and stuff like that is usually not a good thing. That's why all the gas stations or convenience stores where you go, the employee never touches your credit card, you use the machine there in front of you.
That-
Well, we
the
can
same
have the
could
same
happen
thing here, actually. They
The
stick
same
it in the
exact
credit
thing.
card machine.
You just, customer sticks it in with the chip,
But we're doing it with
customer
a
pulls
computer,
it out,
we're doing it with a computer.
And charging the fee. and charges.
And a lot of people don't
The-
like to do it
If
with
the
the
priority is, if the people of the town are your priority, then that's why your decision will be made. Do you put a priority with the people of the town, or do you put a priority with not having to maybe work with a little extra in the office?
When we cut these hours down to what they are now, we weren't thinking of the people of this town. For 15 years, we've done it the other way, and we increased hours to compensate for the people.
Excuse me, could we have the attention of the full board, please? Says you.
When somebody, let me ask about that 5 minutes, Joe. When somebody's up here and she asks a question and the board takes 10 minutes to answer and it's a long discussion, is it 5 minutes I thought it was 5 minutes that person actually gets to talk. But if I'm talking for 2 minutes and Ashley's talking for 3 minutes and you're talking for 2, does that eliminate the whole 5 minutes of the person?
They started right with stopwatches in the county at the area plan. As soon as somebody comes up, stopwatch. If somebody, usually like people will talk and then they'll have people answer a question and they're done. But if you get in discussion, that is a problem that happens.
So you could virtually not, you could ask one question.
And if you ask a really long, drawn-out question, you could lose, your whole 5 minutes of talking and get an explanation.
So can we make some kind of adjustment at some time where on some of these things we talk about, like wards and some of this real controversial stuff that these people complain I hear is they don't get enough time to talk or really to say what they want, and then on top of it, you guys, Joe, you always read this thing or somebody reads it, that they can't repeat themselves, what the other person said. And a lot of times when you're talking about wards, a lot of people want to say the same thing, that no, we don't need something, or yes, we do need something. And I think it's our obligation to take a few minutes and listen to it. You know, we only meet once a month. You know, I don't think we need to scatter them out of here and have a quick meeting because we don't want to listen to these people. Just an opinion.
Linda Manning, 727 I just wanted to comment that I understand people not wanting to pay on the computer because I'm not a computer person. But I also know that I just found out from talking to our clerk that I could go to my bank and set it up, that it comes out automatically out of my checking account, and I'm doing that right now. And you do not get charged any fee for that. I don't know how hard that would be for other people that have a problem with all that, but maybe it would help.
That's a good point, very good point.
Just
I'm
have
not
it
good about that stuff either, you know. I
If
really
they
don't
have
know.
it.
offered everything for everybody, then better, but.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's somewhere else to go and check with your bank and see if you can set it up automatically, because to me, that works best for me. I still have to get on the computer though and check online to see that it's coming out right and stuff, but still, it is an alternative. You don't have to pay fees, so.
Very good point.
What else is for utilities? Utility report.
Good evening, folks. As you've probably seen around town, we've wrapped up some projects, which is always a good thing. We'll start off with the water report. In July, we did the lead and copper testing for the town, which IDM requests every 3 years. We don't have the test results back. I did speak to them by phone, said everything appeared to be fine. I don't have an official report to them forward to the people who participate. There hasn't been a problem in the past with lead and copper problems, so I was expecting in the future.
How often do we do lead and copper reports?
3 years.
Every 3 years?
It's based upon population, so a town this size has to do 10 samples every 3 years.
Okay.
As you may or may not be aware of, the hydrant flushing was done in July, on July 24th and 25th. It turned out well. I don't have the report on that. They have 30 days to get the report to the town. There's a couple hydrants that need some minor repairs. They did do maintenance on all. All of them did work, except the one over here at Harrison and 38. They did not flush that one simply because there was a valve on it that made it unsafe to do so. But it's a fairly easy fix, and I think it's something we can do in-house. I'll have more specifics on that once I get the report. I should have that before the September board meeting. I was a bit surprised, and I went around with the guys off and on when they were doing this. There was not a lot of sediment in the water, which is always good, but whenever not flushed on the schedule per se, you would get a buildup of iron in the system. And although there wasn't a few of the dead ends, it wasn't system-wide, which is always a good thing for the town and for the residents. The July meeting, the purchase was approved for the new water meters. Those will be shipped the last week of August. So those should begin installation the first week of September. So I would say in the month of September, everyone will have their new water meters in. We'll start the new reading system. Problem is, there'll be some foldover from, because they won't be all installed before the billing cycle. There'll be some that, the billing cycle will be a bit more complicated during that 1 month period, but hopefully we'll have them all ready by the next billing cycle. The Phillips 66, out by I-65, I noticed a semi had ran over and damaged the meter pit out there again. I know you've had it repaired before. So I spoke to the station manager on a couple occasions. I'm going to meet with I'll call it the regional manager for Circle K Wednesday morning to see what we want to do there. She suggested that they would like to have that meter relocated so that it's not at the edge of the semi parking lot, so that this does not seem to be a recurring item. Because it could be an emergency very quickly if it pinches that line and cracks it. So they did not say whether they would be moved at their cost
See if they can take one of them cement pylons and sit down in front of it, and then tear up a truck rather than our water line.
We have plenty of them down there,
Yeah.
you know.
Once they put that curbing in, we won't need them down there. All them, you can just put a square around that thing, man, and keep the heck out of the truck.
Well, me and Ashley went out there and looked at that and thought about that. It's, so it has happened once before. Is that right?
It's happened twice within the past year.
Well, let me see what their idea is and what cost would be involved, and that is one of the options that I was gonna offer them, say, let's frame this with these concrete barriers so that it doesn't happen again. Much like the suggestion was for once we repair this fence, let's move some over there so the semis go back into the fence that goes up against the police station there. So I'll have a couple things to discuss with them on that as well. Under wastewater, I had mentioned at the July meeting, the grease trap and grit chamber inspection will start this month. A gentleman from Lafayette Renew will be taking me around to kind of run me through that initial inspection process. I have visited all the facilities that require grease traps and grit chambers, just to let them know that they will be getting, there's certain requirements that they need to meet, we will be inspecting them quarterly or at least twice a year, so they're expecting a visiting inspection. Concerning lift stations, so before I got here, you had initiated the updating of the College Street and Cemetery lift station, and they're working fine. I've been called, we now have the mission control that calls me anytime there's a problem. It's called me twice in 90 days, and that's been because of power outages, or storms. So I get a daily report, a weekly report, a monthly report on them, so that it really is useful information. As these were upgraded, there was old equipment there at the sites, concrete pad with control panels, had those removed and areas graded and seeded, so those, for that intent purposes, all completed there. I'm sure that nearby homeowners appreciate that. Also on the lift stations. So, it's always good to have some spare parts for these lift stations. For the one at Deerfield, we have a spare pump on hand. It's a rebuilt pump, but I'm sure it works good. For the College Station, or College Street and Cemetery lift stations, they use the same pumps. So we would just need to purchase one pump that would be one of those. For the Prairie lift station, it's a single phase, we would need a different type of pump for it. But I've been speaking to Ashley and would like to consider having a spare pump for each of these lift stations, just to have on hand here, so we need one. It was not a 7-day delay in getting one and having it installed. The pump, which will fit either College Street or Cemetery, is $3,900. I do not have the price for the one on Prairie, because I don't have the specifications for it.
We used to always keep an extra one down
Did
for
we?
each of the
We
stations.
have one just for Deerfield this
Yeah,
time.
but I mean, for each of the different kinds.
I think it's always a good idea.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate in that you guys were probably thinking ahead, so whenever you updated College and Cemetery, that there was a pump that would fit both. It just saves on some costs. So what do you think about purchasing a spare pump for each of them?
I think that definitely needs to be done. I would make the motion that we would purchase a spare pump for the two stations that we're currently missing.
Been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Last item on the wastewater is, the new Redbird Cafe. They've been having problems with their drainage system there. The town of Dayton Development Guide, is guided somewhat, and specifications are utilized from Lafayette wastewater because we're under some of their guidance because we ship over there. Their guidelines say that every new resident or business has to have a, 6-inch sewer line. The problem is that some of our sewer mains only have 4-inch taps. Not all of them, but some of them, especially in the older part of town here. So we have a 6-inch line coming from a resident or business tying into a 4-inch, and it's caused a problem down there. So we need to go from where they stopped their 6-inch and run it on over to either the main or there's a nearby manhole, just to relieve them from having to have their system pumped out every couple of months. I'm working with contractors to figure out what is the most financially acceptable. There's a couple options. The problem is that that sewer main is about 9.5 foot deep. Well, the deeper you go, the wider you go, the more street you tear up. The manholes within 30 feet, it might be the cheaper of the two options, just to run it over the manhole and drop it in there. But I'm still working on the details. We've had it located. Part of what guides that decision is where's the gas main, where's the fiber optic, and that kind of thing. But I just want to make you aware that I am working with the owners of the cafe, and we're hoping to resolve that within 30 days. So if they speak to you about it, just let them know that we're going to get it resolved. Here's an item that I just thought would interest you. We're part of the Tippecanoe County Clean Water MS4, which is Stormwater Management. Titles, okay about that. Each year they come out with their budget. Tippecanoe County, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Purdue University, Battleground, and Dayton are part of this, and we each share in the cost, annual cost of this stormwater initiative. I just think it's always good to track what we're paying out to be part of organizations and why we see terms for that. Their budget for 2019 is $243,000 approximately. Each of those 5 or 6 municipalities pay an initial $5,000 and then a percentage thereafter. Of course, Tippecanoe County pays a larger percentage, Lafayette pays a larger percentage. But our total cost for 2019 will not, including the $5,000, will not exceed $6,882. Now, whenever we receive billing on this, if I understand it correctly, they all pay the $5,000 initially, but then thereafter, as the bill's received, it's percentage-wise thereafter. Are you familiar with this, Doc? Okay. I just think it's always good to understand how that is calculated. Okay? Streets. So I'm happy to announce, and as we all seen, that the college street project is complete just before school starts. I was glad to see that. In addition to college, there was a block on Jefferson, a patch on Dayton Road, on Favorite, and on Dryer that got completed. So for this summer, all of our street projects have been completed now. And they're in pretty good shape. Also, as part of that, I worked with Marshall Taylor on having crosswalks painted. So we did them up here on 38, on Dayton Road, and then 3 or 4 of the hardest. So they're all ready for school session also. As you've also seen, moving on to another subject, is Dollar General has started construction out here, west of town. I held a pre-construction meeting with them here at Town Hall on July 17th. Had a member of Butler Fairman here to help me go through the specifications on that and what's required of the contractor. Our concern, of course, is water, sewer service, and then, of course, stormwater also, and erosion control during the construction process. They're kind of hitting and missing right now. They're working a few days and then they're gone for a few days. They're still completing roads where I believe they're showing they'll start know, I saw a, like an overview of just, you know, a rough sketch, but I'm not seeing.
There's a one group that said, and we mentioned it before, that they'll put in a fancier facade than the normal one, so you ought to try to mention that whenever you can.
I will. I know they said it was gonna be a corner entrance, which is a rectangular
And
building.
it'll look better.
Yes, but I will, I'll ask them about that. Next is tree trimming. We were wanting the trees trimmed back so we get a better line of sight for the stop signs on Dayton Road and Clifton Falls. So if you're coming from the north, there were the poplar trees around there, and Ron's taking the time to trim those up, and it looks good, and there's definitely a better line of sight along there, so that's much appreciated, Ron. So now being northbound, Dayton Road, there's 4 trees that need to be trimmed there. I have a bid from Wildcat Tree Trimming, received that this morning, for $800 to complete that tree trimming project, go along there and have that done.
Where was that?
So, as you're heading north on Dayton Road, as you're approaching that stop sign, there's a maple, a birch, and an evergreen on the east side of the road. There's pretty much here in the line of sight of that stop sign. They're just taking, the reason it's taking me time to get this figured out is there's power lines in there. So for some contractors who don't want to mess with that, so I reduced it down the height of the trimming just to the phone lines. And they're trying to get across there, just still improve the line of sight across there. So I'd like to go ahead and contact him, Martha, I think he needs down as soon as possible, and we'll go ahead and do that.
I'd make a motion that we contract with Wildcat Tree Trimming to trim the trees as needed along Dayton Road.
Second?
Been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Motion carries.
Last item is State Road 38. Wednesday, August 8th is a bid letting for the completion of State Road 38 going through town here. We'll start at approximately Pennsylvania Street and go out to County Road 900. It's a bit different. You know, when I look out, I wasn't here for it, but I look out here, they apparently did concrete surface and curbs and sidewalks. Was that part of all this project through here? This has been reduced to just patching and overlay. So it will not be like this. It's a bit disappointing in that because I know we have some drainage that needs done, especially with Delaware Street, it goes down the hill there. There's a road culvert that's needs replaced, some other things that we were hoping would be part of this contract. But it's not. So I spoke to the gentleman who's kind of the liaison between NDOT and Tippecanoe County. I said, well, what, the bid's being let, so next week, when can it happen? He said, it could actually happen this fall. It could happen, it could be 18 months out. It depends on the contractor, how it's specified. But the bid will be let this week, and I'll try to stay on top of it, let you know what the construction schedule might be on. While I was at that meeting, it was the Area Plan Commission and Transportation Committee meeting, a gentleman asked me afterwards if the town had any interest in the crossing right that you applied for years ago here, across from the post office, like it's built down at the college. And he said he thought that it would be possible to move that project forward. I told him I'd present it to the board to see if there was an interest in doing it. He showed me the original paperwork. There's actually one here, one at college, and one down at Clifton Falls. The one we're speaking of right now is specifically just one. And looking at the paperwork on it, I think for those 3, the estimate was $90-some thousand, but that was in 2011, I believe. Is that accurate to say then that this one would just be 30,000? I don't know. But there has to be some research done. We want to know traffic counts, pedestrian counts, all those kind of things. But before I took the time to pursue it, I wanted to see if there was even any interest in it. So if you'd like me to, I can pursue it, and if not, I won't.
I think you should pursue it, especially with the amount of kids in town, like, sometimes, I mean, the crossing guard's only there after school, and besides that, those 38 that flag down.
You know, at Marshall Taylor's request, we added an additional third crosswalk to take people away from the post office, because that's part of that congestion is the lack of parking for the post office and school starting and school letting out. That's when people are stopping in there often before and after work. So those are the exact times whenever the students are there also. So I think there's a need for it also, but I'll contact NDOT and see if I can pursue it. Maybe we can make it happen.
Is there a chance, maybe 2 flashing lights? I know when you come into some towns, it says 20-mile-an-hour zone while school's in session. If we had one at that end and one at that end before they actually get to these crossings,
I'll be sure
would
that,
that be an option?
I don't think it hurts to ask. I think it would be an
I
option.
mean, instead of having it right where they cross, last minute.
So,
Have a little farther that way, a little farther that way.
so not in addition to that, to have that instead of the crosswalk? Is that what you're saying?
In addition to it.
In addition,
In addition to it. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
well, thank you and Ashley for doing a great job on getting the streets done with as little hassle as possible. You did a good job.
Just glad it's completed. It was a busy time, wasn't it?
Took a lot of hours to get there. Concrete and everything else.
Comments from residents on utilities? Reports from council members on utilities?
Motion to adjourn, utility board meeting.
Motion made and properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, meeting in order. Any questions or approval of minutes?
I make a motion to approve the town board minutes from July 9th, 2018.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of claims, any questions on the claims?
Make a motion we approve the claims topic for August 6th, 2018.
Have a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Allowance docket. Any questions on that?
I'll get there after you go on this.
I'll make a motion, we approve the allowance docket for 7127.
Have a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you really quick. You will notice that you are missing the revenue and the appropriations. Our printer stopped working on Thursday last week. Ward Jones has not been able to get in here to fix it. For that report, we have to print off some receipts that go into those reports that will not let me redirect to another printer. They also do not give me those numbers until you update and print, which then goes to the non-functioning printer. So I talked to Jason on Friday. We are tabling those until next meeting, and I will have those available for you guys.
Any motion to table the revenue report and appropriations report until next month?
Make a motion we table revenue report, appropriations report until September board meeting. Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Clerk treasurer's report.
Okay, I have quite a few things. First things first, a Originally, when we approved, disposal of furniture, there are 2 desks back there. They're not necessarily in bad condition, they just are not functional, actual desks for anything going in this office. They were used to hold like the printer and stuff like that. Our desks will actually hold all that, they're taking up space. They were originally, like I said, approved to go to the dump. We have somebody who actually wants to purchase them instead, kind of giving you that option. Instead of paying $20 to take it to the dump, somebody will purchase them and move them.
How much are they offering?
I think 75 total. I don't know, do they just have to?
Can you do that?
Make a motion to sell. Motion. I make a motion to sell.
Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, next thing, we have this window over here, and I know I've talked to a few of you about it. It was just laying up against, kind of back there, we had stuff actually in front of it. Ron had said the original plan was to hang it on the wall, put it in a frame and hang it. I'm kind of seeing if that's still kind of your plan, if we want to move it to the basement, if you actually go along and move it and touch the edges, there's pieces that are still sharp. I think it's kind of a hazard to leave it sitting there. Now if we want to display it, I think maybe there's a proper way to do that. Or,
We bought special brackets to hang it, we just needed 2 or 3 people to hold it up, one to screw it on. So there's another window like that in the basement, it came off 2 windows, and we were going to mount it on that wall, the west wall, centered behind the display case.
and I have no huge preference on that, I just, safety wise, I don't think we need to leave a piece of metal or a piece of glass that has sharp edges. I think we need to find a way, if we're gonna hang it, to kind of cover those edges, so we do not have necessarily a safety hazard.
We could get a frame, sort of frame.
And that's fine, I'm good with whatever.
Let's just put it in the basement for now, because it's been here for how many years?
Yes.
It hasn't been hung yet, so let's just put it in the basement when,
That, I don't care, and if you guys wanna frame it and hang it up later, that's fine, I'm good with that. I'm just trying to kind of,
Well, Mike, we could get it hung right away instead of, it was here for years.
You got the bracket?
We carried, yeah, they were in the safe, but we carried it up a couple of years ago, to put it there, so.
you have any idea?
The bracket, do you run across the brackets? or-
I do not, I'm sure they're in there, I don't know, kind of messing there, we're doing everything, so.
Sometimes you might have to frame it.
I think it would need to have, like those edges, I think we need to find a way to cover them. Even if we hang it, even then, in case somebody hits along it and they don't cut
Somebody could
themselves.
make a big frame and just
That would be
cover them
fine.
all.
Yeah.
These have still beams, and they're not wood, so
Okay.
that are 16 on center, and I don't know if that will match, and you're not gonna just put a molly in the drywall on one end, so
Right,
it may not even work. Hang up, it's too heavy to hang on
right,
drywall.
right,
So
I get that.
we'll have to do some more research on that before we'll hang it on these walls, and they just didn't paint it, so.
Momentarily basement, it will need to be moved somewhere while they do flooring tomorrow, so. I'm not sure what we do.
All right, we'll carry it to the basement tonight.
I told him he had to, but he said no. Next thing, and I had sent a text out to all of you just to kind of give you a heads up. Computer desks, the original ones we were getting from Office Max. Dealing with Office Max has not been easy. They will not take our tax ID number. They are making it go through, they're making it go through their whole corporate, which could take up to 20 days. They said that state doesn't override theirs. It was a fun conversation. So I've moved elsewhere. Online, there's Wayfair, I'm sure all of you have heard of it. There's no tax on it. Looking at options that would not cost more than you have already approved, but it would be, I would pay for it and then have the town reimburse me with that receipt, because we don't have a credit card. Staples does not have anything, I've looked, they do not have anything
We've done that before, so then you don't pay the tax and you
Yeah.
get cleared from that.
Otherwise, we're looking at like, because I think it was another 15 to 20 days for them to actually ship the furniture. I'm just,
That's great. So you need a motion. Make a motion that we purchase furniture through Wayfair. Steve?
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
okay, next thing. Pictures, I took pictures of how everything was hung up before. I will happily put it back just the way it was. My other option was, I kind of thought some of these pictures were cluttered into one spot, making it also go down the hallway, so when you walk up, like come up to the meetings, you can actually see pictures instead of them being cluttered in one spot. That's just an option. I just kind of want to get your feedback on how you want it to look. I want to make it look kind of nice and rearrange some stuff, make it so people can see what is actually there.
It might be that when this desk was over here, we had the big
Yeah.
camera map there, and you might want that there so that the board
And
can
that would
turn
be-
around, point to it.
That is another thing we're gonna, slap trash here. This desk, I kind of contemplated moving it, and this is up to you, this way so everybody can see everything and we lose some of this dead space back here. Thoughts on that too?
Should be a corner.
Then you can see and you can see all directions. Anybody have- It's not really going far, just shifting over.
Right.
And
So
then
this is
obviously
centered
pictures.
more in that corner.
Yeah, something like that.
It evens it out.
Is everybody kind of okay with that? And then pictures, what's your thoughts?
We'll still put that down right there.
Okay,
Work on pictures in the next month or two.
if you guys want to come up here, I can give you ideas, what I see, and then you can come up here during the day and, or evening, and we can approve what you all like, work. Okay, last thing
I think
is,
everything that was held up with masking tape probably.
there were little nails too, little tiny nails that are rusted and bending, and like, I mean, it worked, but, last thing, we have updates obviously going on in here. They will be finished up on Wednesday, is the goal. If any of you have tried to call, our phones are down. Everything had to be unplugged today. They were actually supposed to be out of our office today. They ran into a little bit of a snag in there, removing some stuff, so it will be done first thing in the morning. So computers will be plugged back in, so online bill pay will be up and running, and phone systems will be back up and running first thing in the morning, just so everybody kind of has a heads up on that. But carpet will be completed hopefully by Wednesday is the plan. And then they will come up and touch up the rest of the paint and scuffs after that.
We're still waiting on Marbury to get back to us on a phone system.
Yeah, I was kind of looking to integrate that, but I don't know. I left them, so. That is all I have. My own list.
Thank you. Joe?
You should have received in your packet an ordinance having to do with the changing of the ward structure here, and the one that you received in your packet, due to miscommunications, the document is inaccurate, and you should throw it away. And substitute in its place a new ordinance, which was, I think, hopefully I sent it to you with a drawing this afternoon, and additional copies were passed out. And it needs to have an ordinance number assigned to it. And the council should review and read the ordinance on first reading and vote it on first reading, which means that then it would carry over to a second reading in the September meeting for the last and final reading. That would be an appropriate way to take care of this now. So I would ask the clerk treasurer to give me a number, so we're all dealing with the same thing. Okay, this is ordinance 18-5.
Yeah, Joe, I'd like
Yes.
to bring up something. Several months ago, we talked about these wards, and we talked about having, it's supposed to be an open door meeting advertised to the public in several places. That's the way I read the laws. And you have to have 2 of these open door public meetings. And we said before, the town has not had a public meeting to decide on exactly what goes into this ordinance. And Jason's last time he talked, he said, well, we're just bringing up the ordinance and then we can all talk about it and change it. But nobody knows that it's not posted on the door, it's not posted anywhere. It's gotta be 48 hours when you're changing wards here. You can't just come up with, who decided this? We never decided it.
That's
You know?
what passing this ordinance.
Yeah, but you're also saying go ahead and okay it on the first reading. You should be saying we should be having a discussion about it at an open door meeting that's advertised for that purpose. There's a lot of people out there, this has got one line in it that's controversial. Some of the people in this town only want to vote on the people in the ward. Other people, most of the town wants to vote on everybody in this town. They want to know, they want to be able to vote for all 5 of their representatives. And you guys took that out and put in there that they can only vote for the ward itself unless you run at large. And that's the controversial thing in this whole mess. So it needs to be an open door meeting to the public, advertised properly, so everybody can come up here and we can notify everybody to come up here and discuss it.
And that's partially the reason for the second reading. That
Well,
would be it.
I understand it's for the first reading, you gotta advertise that open meeting for the, look it up, you gotta do it for the first meeting. You can't just, I knew about this 2 days ago. Where does the people know about it? It's not advertised anywhere. There's a lot of people that would like to be here for a ward meeting. Just like before, when we did advertise it before, when we talked about it and let the word out, there's quite a few people in here. But this was never, this is what this board always does. It comes up behind the lines, makes up something, puts it on the desk here a day ahead with no meeting, and says, here's what it is, let's vote on it.
We had this board elected a citizens committee to study the voting districts. And this is the voting districts.
Yeah, I know, but the citizens committee was held, and you guys said it before, if you look up in those tapes, you can't have that was some ideas, but we never had the meeting with the council here in the public, that actually the open door advertised meeting to decide what goes into this, so you can vote on it.
The citizens committee had multiple meetings.
Yeah, they had it in private, and they weren't open meetings, Ashley, and by law, you have to, right, Joe, you have to have an open door. You can't have a citizens meeting closed door, Ashley.
The citizens,
We went over that before.
Meetings.
the citizens
Was it
meeting
closed?
should have been open.
They weren't advertised as a meeting,
I
as
don't
open
know
door
about that.
meetings.
Those citizen committees are a lineal progression of this board and the ordinance.
We got the rest of, we got the rest of your.
Excuse me, and the ordinance and statutes require that even those committees abide by the open door law.
Why don't we just pick a time to have an open and advertise it and have a meeting on it? As simple as that. We got plenty of time. We got the rest of the year.
You don't have those here.
Well, that's within the discretion of the board.
Well, we do
If you
have till
believe
the
that,
rest of the year.
make a motion or do something.
You do not have,
I think we just have till November, it has to be in place by November 5th.
Okay, well then have a meeting. It's August, September, October, November. We got plenty of time to have the meetings.
Why not just get rid of the wards and let everybody just vote through the whole town?
well, if everybody's gonna vote for everybody, no matter what, then, yeah, you don't really need warrants to do that. That's,
That's how battleground, well, they run it, everybody's,
you know, again,
Open candidate.
the citizens committee, I think, wanted boards to
Right.
keep 5 board members from
That's
living on the
citizens.
same street.
Right.
I want to say something. Those citizens committees were handpicked without representation of the other people, and I had to force my way in there, and everybody sitting there was one-sided.
There were 2 council members, yourself and Tammy.
Yes, and you didn't show up.
Well, I did two shows. I showed up at every, Tammy, I showed up at every meeting in 15 years, except when I wasn't notified.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't notified of the one, on
Oh,
purpose.
yeah.
But listen, okay, we still need to have the public invited to this. It's their vote of this town and how we're running this, you know?
We did have a meeting when they had the committee here.
Well, if you go ahead and vote on it, I'm gonna bring a lawsuit fighting it, it's not legal, because it's not legal. Guarantee you, Mike. Just wait take a week or two and advertise a meeting and have people come up. Is that so we're shattering? Let them come up here and
We don't want to involve the public.
And again, this ordinance is going back to the way Dayton originally voted two elections ago. We're going back to the same format that we had 2 elections ago.
And then we changed them, and there's too many.
Well, you changed them, you went from 3 wards back then to 2 wards, but you kept trying to run to the town board. That seems to be
Doesn't
a
matter,
different
actually.
situation
You still gotta
now.
have
So now you go back to
an open
3.
door
And it's
Doesn't
the
matter,
same
you still gotta have an
format
open door public meeting.
had for the last 30 years minus 2 elections.
Right.
On the other issue, I don't know. The open door law has to be abided by.
Yeah, guys, we're talking about you can still do your thing, you can just have the people talk about, just pick another meeting. So everybody's represented.
I thought the one we had was more than
No. They would
When they had the table set up and they did a presentation
It
2
just
different
sat there.
times, I don't know if that is considered a.
Open door has to be advertised publicly to the public for the whole public, and that was for a committee of the committee only.
But that was a.
It was not
open door
committee
public
only, it was
everybody.
open door.
No, it wasn't, Ashley, it was not open door.
When I spoke at the last meeting that you guys talked about it, Tyrone said specifically, hey, bring all this information to the special ordinance meeting. Can I bring my stuff, or,
Now you need the name of, and where you're from here.
but I mean, am I commenting on the districts? If I,
I would get your stuff.
okay, just a second. Yeah, right here. Thanks.
Sorry. How are you doing?
The letter said it
Well, I was gonna say, are you opening it to count the resident?
Yeah, that's
Is that
what I
what we're doing?
No.
That's what she
Oh.
was confused about. She wanted to know, she has a comment section.
It's the same thing I said last time, but Tyrone said, hey, that's good information, but not for this meeting, bring it to the ordinance meeting. So I've have been waiting for the ordinance meeting.
Well, we haven't decided whether we would have been doing this or not, so we
So
decide.
momentarily.
I'm just saying, like,
Momentarily.
Tyrone said,
Yeah.
okay. There was good.
Certainly, if that's your discretion, you can read it tonight for first reading and schedule an open door hearing with all of the notices that Ron has been describing here, all the advertisements, all of that kind of stuff.
Why would you do that when you have, if people come to that open door meeting and want all the voting of the wards changed, why would you read that before you have the open door meeting with the public?
Worst case scenario, if we decide to change it, we can get rid of that.
No, it doesn't get changed like that. You guys vote on it, and then you come up next meeting and say, here it is, guys. And it's psychological, it's already half done. It needs to be fair to everybody and let everybody speak. What's so hard about that?
Okay, I think, it seems to me, and, my name is Gail Melinda, I live at 7315 Wesleyan Drive, and I've only been in this town for a couple of years. So I wasn't here the last time you guys had this conversation. But it seems to me that you have to have an ordinance, at least a draft of an ordinance, so that you can have a public meeting, and the people in the public meeting have some sense of what they like or don't like about the draft ordinance. So,
That's right.
take your first round, take your first shot at this one, because it is what we came up with, and see where you go from here. I was part of that committee. This is what we came up with, I think.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Take your shot at it and say, yeah, we want to have a public meeting and talk about it. Let us all come back and say what we all need to say as citizens of this town, and then figure out how you amend or change or adopt that ordinance. I think that's the way we do it. That's all I gotta
So
say.
call the meeting, bring this up to it, and have your open door meeting.
Mike Bullis, 740 Shady Lane. I like Tyrone's idea. Everybody votes for the 5 people.
Yeah.
That way, it's not,
So everybody on one street can be in.
if that's what, if
Everybody,
people,
what the
if the
people
good
want.
people
It's
are
not good
there,
representation.
huh?
It's not good representation.
You're representing
It's
the
What the
county.
people
We
want.
ran this place for 13 or 14 years and we didn't have a problem. We had no animosity. People worked together. Things got done.
Right.
You know, I don't understand this anymore.
Been time to change now.
You know, I realize that the whole democratic society is.
But this is why you need
Social
the
media.
open door meeting, because people like him and other people would like to talk and have input on this, and not a
Okay,
hand-picked
let's do
committee.
first reading and then we'll have.
Yeah, I agree, let's go on.
I still think it's a
Need a motion?
Roll call vote.
You need a motion or what?
Yep, and then roll call vote.
Make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2018-5 on first reading, is that the correct language?
And I think it ought to be actually read tonight,
Yes,
so that there is a start on this process of notification.
yes. And should I,
Do you want to do the second and then we read it? Or, because we're in the middle of the motion.
do I need both motions?
Well, you have a vote, you got
I have
Patty
a
and
motion on
Ashley.
the table now.
She has called for a vote.
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna have to vote on the motion, but I think that motion ought to be deferred until this thing is read.
What if we had a citizens meeting and we abolished the warrants, then we called this motion, can you override tonight's,
That's within the sound discretion of the board.
Yeah.
well, it can't be really overridden? And then, I mean, the thing with the wards too, it's like, you could have everybody vote, like I was saying, or you could divide the town into 5 equal wards where you wouldn't have everybody on every section too, you could say, so that you have.
But we're getting away from the whole recommendation of the committee that spent countless hours.
I'm just throwing ideas out there, stuff that is possible to.
Actually, that committee was a hand-picked, one-sided, lopsided committee. I was there at some of the meetings, it absolutely
I thought you were
was.
all of them. You just said you was at all of them, now you're saying some of them.
I said all of them, I was at all of them, yes.
So-
Except I didn't make the third one because I wasn't invited, Mike.
We're talking about the zip for Lafayette just to annex
Okay.
us. This isn't, we're not getting anywhere with this.
No,
telling
let's
It's
go
time
on.
to become a part of
Can
Lafayette.
we just hold that motion until he reads?
Yes,
Okay. Please.
Am I supposed to read this one?
Yeah.
yes.
People probably like to hear it.
This is ordinance 18-5, entitled, "An Ordinance to Abolish Legislative Body Districts." Whereas the Indiana Code provides in IC 36.5 to 4.1N that if the town legislative body has not adopted an ordinance under subsection A and subject to subsection G after December 31, 2011, or 2, adopted an ordinance recertifying districts under subsection K after December 31st, 2011, the town legislative body districts are abolished, effective January 1, 2018. Whereas the town of Dayton, Indiana has in the past elected 2 members of the town board from districts and 3 members at large. And whereas the town of Dayton, Indiana has determined that it is in the town's best interest that 3 members of the town board be elected from districts and 2 members at large. And whereas the Indiana Code 36.5 to 4.1A and G permit a town having a population of fewer than 3,500 to establish wards. Now therefore be it ordained that 1, 3 legislative districts are hereby established within the town of Dayton, Indiana. The map attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, being arrived at with the advice and input of the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission, shall serve as the visual depiction of the wards. 3, Chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances for the town of Dayton is hereby amended to read as follows. Wards. The number of wards in the town is hereby fixed at 3. Boundaries. All boundaries described by streets, alleys, or railroad tracks are considered to be divided at the center line of the street, alley, or railroad track described. The town of Dayton, Indiana, pursuant to IC 36.524.1, is hereby divided into following election districts and wards having the following boundaries. Ward 1, all that land lying within the town limits of Dayton and west of the following described line, beginning at Dayton Road at the northern town limits, continuing southeast along Dayton Road to its intersection with Clifty Falls Lane, thence continuing west along Clifty Falls Lane to Nicely Drive, thence continuing south along Nicely Drive to Harrison Circle, thence following Harrison Circle east, and then continuing along the curve to the south, where it eventually becomes Harrison Street, and until its intersection with Main Street, thence continuing east on Main Street until its intersection with Republican Street, thence continuing south along Republican Street until its intersection with Walnut Street, State Road 38, thence continuing west along Walnut Street to the western town limits of Dayton. Ward 2, all of that land lying within the town limits of Dayton and east of the following described line, beginning at Dayton Road at the northern town limits, continuing southeast along Dayton Road to its intersection with College Street, thence continuing east along College Street to its intersection with Market Street, thence continuing south along Market Street to its intersection with Main Street, then continuing east along Main Street to the eastern town limits of Dayton. Ward 3, all that land lying within the town limits of Dayton and south of the following described line, beginning at Main Street where it intersects with the eastern town limits, thence continuing west along Main Street until its intersection with Market Street, thence continuing north on Market Street to its intersection with College Street, thence continuing west along College Street to its intersection with Dayton Road, thence continuing northwest along Dayton Road to its intersection with Clifty Falls Lane, thence continuing west on Clifty Falls Lane to its intersection with Nicely Drive, thence continuing south on Nicely Drive to its intersection with Harrison Circle, thence continuing east on Harrison Circle, and following the curve to the south where it eventually becomes Harrison Street, to its intersection with Main Street, thence continuing east on Main Street with its intersection with Republican Street, thence continuing south on Republican Street until its intersection with Walnut Street, State Road 38, thence continuing west along Walnut Street to the western town limits of Dayton. Next paragraph, election of town council members. One member of the town council shall be elected from each ward by the voters of the ward in which the member resides, and 2 members of the town council shall be elected at large by the voters of the whole town. 4, the town council seats as enumerated shall be numbered with the ward representatives corresponding to their ward numbers, and with the at-large members being numbered 4 and 5 in alphabetical order of their last names. This ordinance supersedes all prior ordinances fixing the number of wards and the ward boundaries, the number of town council members, the number of town council members elected at large, and the seat to which each member is elected. This ordinance shall be effective December 1, 2018. Adopted and passed by the town council of the town of Dayton this blank day of blank 2018, with a signature line for the presiding officer and an attest line for the clerk treasurer. There is also with it, Aaron, let me see that. This drawing, again, these were done with the aid of betting the help of the area plan commission. And this is the drawing that is referred to in the ordinance that I just read and would be part of that ordinance. These are the documents that would be available in the office of the clerk.
Motion on the table? Is there a second?
Would somebody please read back the motion?
I would make a motion that we adopt voting ordinance number 18 dash 5.
First reading.
On first
On
reading.
first reading.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
These are roll call.
Yes, I,
Yes.
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 No.
So can we set a public meeting date now?
Yep.
Yes, I would recommend that. And giving her enough time to do the appropriate advertisements. and that sort of thing.
40 hours.
48 hours.
First year for it?
Pardon?
Just for an open door meeting.
It's an open door meeting to hear and discuss the ordinance 18-5. At a time when anybody from the town who has an opinion can come and state it.
So we can change it.
Well, you would change it at the second reading and amend it before you voted on the second reading. But amendments can be made.
So if you amend something, you only need the one reading then.
That's right, yeah.
you do Thursday night,
This Thursday?
this Thursday the night?
Yep.
Ron? Yes? Alex, 9? What time? 7? Does that work? Earlier? 6 works? Mike?
See if you take into consideration people that work until 5 o'clock to be able to get home.
Yeah.
So you want to get 7?
7 would be better.
Okay. 7 o'clock on the 9th.
Joe, can you check how many days it has to be advertised, because it might be 5 days.
I'll double check that as well.
Let's see if I'm lucky enough on the first one to get the index of this crazy thing. Ron, now, here is the, in the open door law, the requirement of the memorandum that has to be kept with this meeting, the date and time and places of the meeting, and then it also says, public notice of the date, time, and place of any meetings, executive sessions, or any rescheduled or reconvened meeting shall be given at least 48 hours, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays before the meeting. This does not apply to reconvened meetings. Public notice shall be given by the governing body as follows: by posting a copy at their office. They should give public notice by delivering notice to the all news meeting, which we have already determined who that is. Depositing notice in mail, electronic mail. All of these things are available for the clerk treasurer to look at how you do this. Publishing on the notice, I think here has to be 48 hours in advance.
You might double check the wards though. I thought I'd read somewhere that was longer than 48 hours.
I have that note.
Maybe
I have that note here to look on that for you. So I'll do that, and we'll get an email out to everybody on board.
Is it, let me ask a question, is it possible that, I know everybody doesn't want anything posted in the post office, and that's okay because of all the political stuff and everything, but is it possible that we could ask the postmaster in Lafayette? Can I finish my sentence, please? Can I finish
You're
my
assuming that
sentence?
we don't wanna post it in the post office.
I'm not assuming, I just
Well,
said
you
that
just
we,
said so.
well, you guys okayed not posting it before. so
It is against,
You made
my
that
understanding
decision.
is it's against federal law.
Could I
to post it
speak,
in the
please?
post office.
One at a time.
What I'm saying is, for all these, for 40 years out here, you post the meetings for the town, not political garbage, not anything else, not private stuff, just that meeting. I always posted it in that post office, and that's where I think 90% of the people go up and they read that thing. Probably endanger their lives getting out there. They don't walk across here to come down and read that window, and a lot of them don't look on the email and all that stuff. Could we maybe ask the postmaster if we could just put our meeting notices up there? Ask Sherry and then the postmaster. Is that something you guys would consider?
It's not
It is.
our decision. It's
The
a fed-
postmaster's decision.
it's a
probably.
federal office building, and my understanding is you cannot advertise as a federal
She
office.
legally, she said she legally cannot let us post there. It
Is
is-
she?
I mean,
She told me it was the postmaster in town's decision.
just to clarify, this town board is not against advertising meetings in a post office or wherever, but a post office is a federal office building, and
So
evidently
who
there's
asked,
laws.
who asked
laws
Marshall
against
Taylor to
advertising.
go in and ask to have them taken down, and which member was that? Remember, we had them, everybody's posting them in there, and then all of a sudden, Scott, you went in town and asked, I suppose at the direction of somebody. You guys seem like you didn't want to have them, anything posted up there. Well, okay, who directed Scott to do that? Or did Scott, you just do it on your own?
I understand on everything's a conspiracy to you, okay, but
I'm asking a
I would like to
question.
send that choice.
I'm asking a question how our marshal took it upon himself to go in there and have everything taken off of there. I think he was directed by you guys.
Why don't we just get like a waterproof poster board and put it where people do the drop-off bill pay right there? Out here.
And we have
That's not
done
everybody does.
that with
And just make something like that, it's like super easy.
Some kind of notice so people know about these things.
well,
They're
Yeah,
also
working
on the
website.
maybe you can help get it
Not
on
everybody
social
goes to a
media.
website, put a notice in
Everywhere else.
everybody's mailbox, pay the postage and put it in everybody's mailbox.
Especially important stuff.
Quite a few $100s to do that.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. Yeah, printing and all that stuff.
I don't know when these meetings are. I don't take the newspaper. I'm not registered with the town with my email.
Do you have a computer?
Yes, I do, but I'm not registering with the town's website.
You don't have to register. There we have Dayton.in.gov.
I am busy at work. I don't have time to do that. I do work at work.
Well, you do
And I
have to
don't
take
have
some
time every
responsibility
meeting.
for this
But
stuff.
the thing of it is, there used to be notices that people could see it. And everyone was aware of what was going on.
Times have changed, it's computerized now. We do a lot on the internet.
I know, for a long time, nothing was in the post office. Then when postmasters changed, things,
Things have been in the post office ever since I can remember, and I've been in this town for 40-plus years.
well,
And I've been 45 years, they've always been up there, actually. I put them up there for 15 or 12 years.
And then you're in violation of federal law.
Well, every other town in the state of Indiana has them posted in their post office.
trying to
Our
hide it.
our postmaster here said it's called a community board, and you can post it on the community board.
All right,
Can I say something? I'm Joan Ames from 728 Main Street. I don't know, I'm confused right now. You know, I'm just amazed at this discussion. As citizens, we have responsibility to follow some of this too. It can't be spoon-fed to us. But at the same time, I understand, we ran into the same issue in Alaska where you couldn't post stuff in the post office, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But we've got these big windows. I mean, can't we come up with some kind of a board and where meeting such and such time, people are driving by, they come by and get their, mail? This is the area that that I be looking for? I come down and read your windows to see when the meetings are. So why can't we use the windows in this building and just be done with it?
We did post it.
They're on the windows, they're just,
I
I think
mean-
she's talking about bigger.
Bigger,
Yeah.
bigger
So you can read
forms. I mean,
without walking up.
we're spending a lot of money for carpets and paint and all, but it's actually a citizen's issue that we should know what our meetings are. So if we can spend how many thousands for carpet, it seems like, or hundreds or whatever it was, we could print a bigger sign and put it in the windows so that the citizens know.
Well, we also
But
tried.
it's our responsibility as citizens to look.
Right.
Joe, and we did post a larger, when they weren't posted anywhere, we posted a ward meeting sign or something on the private property over there, and I think the council took it down and cut it up into 3
Well,
places.
I don't know about that. That's old history, and I really don't wanna redigest that. I'm just trying to move forward. Can't we put something in the windows in a larger focus?
Yeah.
Spend some money for the citizens and be done with it? Thank you. Thank you.
I think we should just make a little bulletin board thing outside.
Maybe we can get flashing light. But there's two real big windows right there. You don't have to waterproof anything, you don't have to build anything, you just have to print it where people can see it. Yeah, one of those little banner tonight. There you go.
Then we move on to the marshal.
They're great.
Oh, good. Speak up. It's the sign here that was meetings.
Post office clarification. I received a complaint because notices were being removed from the post office, and it was requested that an investigation take place and charges be filed. The post office is not my jurisdiction, so therefore I went to the U.S. Postal Service and asked them for advice and to make them aware of the alleged crimes happening in their jurisdiction. At which time, they responded they weren't inclined to investigate and that their rules and laws were that nothing get posted in the post office to begin with. It is my understanding at that time that they contacted the local postmistress and advised her that nothing further should be posted. That's my advice.
Thank you.
Marcia Taylor, so this town council did not direct you to go to the post office and remove something, correct?
Not at any time.
Do you understand that wrong?
I didn't say that direct didn't take it down, I said they directed them to go and talk to the post office.
Ron, I believe you're the one that directed me and wanted to file charges against the people removing the signage put up by the Dayton Area Community Coalition. Correct?
Well, I think I complained to you that
Yes,
everything was still.
you wanted a criminal investigation, and I did that at your request. And that was the consequences of what happened.
Is that how you got in there?
Pardon me?
Because of my request, is that like? when-
That's what led me down that path. I just explained.
Okay.
Any questions on July activity that you all got in your? Update on the cell phone, it has been purchased, and we were able to get a cell phone for free from Verizon by choosing a older model. New phone, but it's an older model, so we were able to get it free. We are already seeing an increase in calls received by having that at our disposal, particularly after hours on weekends. So that's been a positive contribution. A couple months ago, you approved the purchase of a portable radio that was refurbished. Just to jog your memory, a new one was like $3,000, $3,500. We were able to find a refurbished one for $800. I was also able to trade in a radio that we're not using, that came out of the third car that we traded in, for an additional $300 off. So save some more money there. The new officers, 2 new officers approved for hire last month are outfitted and working. There was some conversation last month about possibly, I don't know if that came from the audit board, but possibly if community corrections was still available to do work around town like doing curbing. I called community corrections, they will do that, and from what I understand, they will also provide the supervision, so all we need to do is put Mark together with community corrections and show them what they need done, and other than supply the materials, they'll be able to help us out on the curbs, it sounds like. In regard to collection of fines, before I talk about this, I'd like to preface by the fact that Dayton Police Department, nor the town of Dayton's goal is to fine people for any kind of revenue enhancement. We would much prefer that people follow our codes in particular, and I go out of my way to try to do that by contact, by education, before we ever issue any type of citations. And the stats show, last month I issued 30 ordinance warnings to 2 citations that were given. So I go out of my way to try to get people to comply with codes, but at some point you have to say enough is enough, and you have to do that because it's for the benefit of our own neighbors that we do that. And 99% of these are for yard problems that we issue fines for. Last month we gave turned one person over to our attorney for collections. I understand that they sent a letter. That fine has since been paid, so that was successful. I have 3 others that I would request be turned over to the attorney for pursual of collections. These are 3 individuals or organizations that are either out of county or out of state. There was 5 citations altogether for these 3 individuals, and they're all for nuisance yards not being mowed. So with your permission.
I would make a motion that we turn those over to our attorney for action.
Second?
And motion is second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Last thing on my list, we did have to abate or mow a yard at 743 South Street that had went months without having any attention done to it. I attempted to track down the owner, which I believe lives in Rossville, sent warnings, sent citations and fines. That's one of the properties on that list, all with no success. So finally we went in and the town mowed that. Just FYI. So the process now would be the clerk would put a lien against that for the cost incurred by the town.
Is that the same property that also has a tree that is increasingly unsafe?
Yes, that's the property where we've had several. One of the neighbors has come in here a couple of times, and they're concerned about.
So there's a lien on it now.
Well, there will be when she files it.
If we have a lien on it now, can we take the tree down and add that to the lien?
I'm unsure about that. We don't have a specific ordinance about nuisance trees. If we deemed it a hazard to traffic, I would be the first to recommend, we gotta do something such as Dayton Road North here, the line of sight issue with the stop sign, but I'm not sure that this would fall within that realm. Obviously, there's a lot of trees in town. If they fall, they're gonna cause problems. I'm not certain that's my bailiwick.
Can you research, see if that, the lien, we can get rid of that tree drop? Miscellaneous, old new business. I want to bring up the, moving the meetings to the second, next year, move it to the second Monday of the month, when there's no holiday, or there's no holidays on the second Monday. Because usually, if there is a Labor Day or something, we're halfway through the month where we have a meeting anyway. It puts us off another week. So I don't think we have to have an ordinance, she just has to turn into the state that we're changing it, right?
Look over your calendar, because January and February have holidays that is in the first part of the week, and make sure that you don't run afoul of those 2 days, and end up causing yourself more grief. So look there first before you do it.
But are they major holidays? That's what.
These are major holidays, let me tell you.
President's Day is the third holiday in February, or the third week, third Monday in February.
It's President's Day.
And then January, Martin Luther King Day,
What day is that?
that is the third week as well.
Third week as well, sir.
So,
Second week will work.
Because both of those holidays are generally federal holidays.
Another good thing, I think, moving to the second week in the month is to allow, the prior month to be fully closed out and that paperwork. We don't run into that very often, but we have run into that quite a few times.
I know you have Battleground, Shadewood.
Every other public body, Battleground, Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Dayton all meet on the same Monday night. Which means that if citizens have business before one or the other of them, they have to decide which one they miss. That's how that's happened over the years. I have no idea, but there it is.
Or is everybody good with that? We can change that.
I think so.
Make a motion, we move the meeting date to the second Monday of the month. Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
That'll start January of 2019.
Need to set up we just got the PRs for 3 locations, South Street, Shady Lane, and Wesleyan. We need to have an executive meeting closed. We could discuss right of ways and possibly land acquisition, so. What date would you like to set up for that?
Why is it closed?
Because it's discussing land
If
acquisition.
If it involves, don't you think we should, the towns, the whole residents back there should have a say so?
And it will, but this is, they give us 3 options on each one. So you don't wanna go throwing out 8 options and then trying to get the whole town to decide on one. So as a council, we'll get together and narrow it down, so we got 3 options, one for each area.
How do you know what to narrow down if you don't have the input from the people who live there?
We have an engineering company that studied this to.
Well, there's not all the options on there, and the engineering company was handpicked by you and you directed
It was
them,
not
Ashley.
handpicked.
Yes, it
not
was.
direct.
It was too. It's the first thing, they've never worked in this town in their life, and the first time when you're trying to take my land over, steal my land, you handpicked them out.
I think this is the meeting we're having,
Casey just
so.
wrote the letter.
We just want to have a discussion.
Oh, yeah, I know
And
the
he just
discussion,
said
you
you
narrow
pick
it
it.
down without all these people out here.
Public meeting.
Well, then why not have it with the people that are involved that are living there?
When you're talking about land acquisition stuff, like, you have to, you have to have a basis in this.
Joe, can they do that? Can they do that without, this is taking people's land. This is first of all, we got a big conflict of interest. Ashley and I hate each other practically, and he picks out the engineer that's going to steal our land, okay? And then I have to go and have a lawyer direct mail so that I can even get the email from the engineer, because he's only going to send it to you, and he refused to send it to me. Yes, he was. He told me himself. I had to argue with him 4 different times on the phone.
The board
And
hired
so
him.
I had the lawyer email him a letter that it should be sent to all of us and not just you, Ashley. So it's, Ashley wants to take over part of our land and take it, and he's got the guy that talks to the engineer, that picked out the engineer. I think that's a big conflict of interest to start with. Why not use BF&S or somebody else that we've used before? You know, this is a conflict of interest, Ashley. Everything's gonna find it in a big lawsuit here. And now you're talking about stealing
Everything's
two
a
of our,
conspiracy.
Aaron, hey, you're talking about stealing two of our pieces of property, Mike. Stealing 2 of our pieces of property. You know? I wanna move my fence over 8 foot, and he throws a fit for 2 years. You're gonna steal it, Mike. That's what you propose, stealing my property.
Why not have a public meeting?
Yeah, why not have a public meeting?
There will be a public meeting.
After we
You just said
decide,
after you narrow it down.
decide, that's their
Why not have one
operation here.
before you
They'll
narrow it
decide
down?
first and then have that public meeting. And then
Why
you guys
is he
will have
giving
a
you all
say
the
so.
options if you're not gonna let the general public see all the options?
Yeah, why even give the options?
Shouldn't the public have a say in it?
Yes.
Can I make a comment as a citizen in this town? Sure. We elected these people. We elected this council. They are saying they want to meet, they want to have a conversation, and bring forward information for the rest of us. I
They
think
said they're
that-
gonna narrow it down.
Excuse me, can I finish my statement and then you can get up and
I
talk?
stopped talking.
Sir, please.
I stopped talking.
I think we should allow them to have a private meeting, to have a conversation. I've been coming to these council meetings on a regular basis for as long as I've lived in this town. And only recently have I heard how important it is to have the people be talking. And I think it has a lot to do with how people perceive what's happening. I know there's animosity in this group. I witnessed it, I've complained about it before. Bottom line, they are our elected representatives. They get to vote, we get to hear what they're saying, but they get to make the decision.
And we get to comment.
When it's your
Yes, we
turn.
do. We all get to comment when it's our turn. They're bringing forward something they want us to comment on. And I think that's a reasonable approach in this particular situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's wait. We're not open for public
You
discussion.
let her talk.
Yes.
You gotta have everything open for
We will have the residents.
Oh, so you just pick and choose who it's
Yeah,
okay to
that's
talk?
what I gotta do on.
I see that.
When you're up here, you can do it.
Could I say
So
something
she gets to
here?
talk and she doesn't?
Could I?
You will all get to talk in a minute.
But what about she just gotta
He
talk?
said in a minute,
And
Don. He
I
said in a minute.
recognize her.
Oh,
Okay.
so it's up to you,
Just
huh?
call
Exactly.
it.
So that's how it goes. The people don't count.
Marshall.
Marshall?
Not to
So
do.
when
One
can
more
they talk,
time.
Mike? When can they talk?
When it comes to the residents, we will talk about it. Right now, we're trying to decide on when to have the meeting.
Yeah,
And
but-
then you can
Okay,
cry and whine about it all you want.
I'd like to, well, I don't wanna whine and cry because it is my
That's all you
land
do.
they're
Okay.
stealing, okay, Mike?
When are we having the meeting?
Listen, could we have a discussion about it?
When did you make a
We're,
decision?
I
that's
think-
what we're setting the meeting up for, is have a discussion about it, Ron.
It should be an open
Well,
meeting.
this is, I think this is a case where it's really a
No,
conflict
Ron,
here of
listen,
interest.
Ron. The reason for this meeting is so we can discuss it without all this. And then we can bring it to them and present it to them. You can't get nothing done when it's going like this, Ron.
Well, the
So let's
options,
just
the
have
options,
a meeting.
the options on that thing
You'll
is
be there
taking
to-
our land, so.
To say whatever you want.
The options on this thing is taking our land, so I guess.
All right.
16?
16.
That's a Thursday, if that
16.
works. Does that work? Or you want up to the 13th, here. 16? That'll give us
16th of August at 6.
All right. Any other new or old business?
Greater Lafayette, everybody else says that.
All right. Comments from the residents?
And we're gonna have a 5-minute. Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane. First of all, somebody very wisely at a previous meeting pointed out that 2 of the people on the council here have conflicts of interest and should not be discussing this in any way, shape, or form as board members. And I'll go one step further than that. I completely agree with what he said, but I think the 3 of you should not be discussing it either, because we all know it's very obvious that you just jump when Ashley tells you to jump. So you all have a conflict of interest. You're all, it is most certainly true. And you're all vindictive and retaliating against us. The meeting that you just scheduled, Mike, should be an open door meeting. And Joe, what rule, there's very limited rules where they can have executive sessions.
And the discussion over the acquisition of land.
Okay, there's no land being acquired because there's no decision on what option. There's 3 options.
Well, I have advised them that this meeting is legally
Okay,
sound.
there'll be a.
Have another one of your lawyers write me.
There'll be a complaint.
Well,
I
don't
may
do it
just
wrong
have
in
to
the
do
first
that,
place.
Joe,
Yeah,
so
why
we
try
can
to
see
hide it?
black legal representation here. I'll be sure someone files a complaint with the public access counselor about that. And but you explain to me, how is there not conflicts of interest here? There are deliberate and obvious conflicts of interest that these people, none of you should be engaged in this. If there's going to be anything done to any road in this town, it should be after a new board is seated and not when this group here is seated.
So every road that was blacktop, all the concrete
The
work was done.
controversial.
Come in for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. And I just hardly,
You're talking about controversial.
yes. As far as any changes to Shady Lane, of course, I know how much you guys consider petitions, but there is a petition, I don't know if we want to give it tonight or if we want to wait, that is signed by most everyone on Shady Lane with a couple of exceptions that you can probably name, and a lot of other people in town, and there will be more. I don't know what your deal is on South Street, but the whole thing is just so obviously, as somebody said to me, it's so obvious what's going on here with Ashley's land grab that even a blind person can see it. And I agree.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do I have to come up there to say something, or can I just stay here?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Your name and your.
Okay, Brooke Chumley, 756 Shady Lane. Are all the meetings like this? Are they all this long?
Sometimes
I just feel like from the public coming, it's very overwhelming to watch all of this happen.
Small town.
That's why people don't come. Yeah, so
Didn't used to be like that.
I guess the other thing, so when you have a meeting like the important one that's Thursday, why is it 48 hours and not like pushed out?
We have to give
That
is,
Right, but that doesn't give
Indiana
people in the
code.
town enough time.
that's Indiana code,
It
so.
Why
has
not
to
make
be
it a
48
week?
hours?
Yeah, at least.
No,
At
so
least.
why can't it be like a week
Agree.
later?
Get it done, get it over with.
For you guys, but you want the public to come, but 48 hours, if I wasn't here, I wouldn't know.
There has been other public meetings, when the board, when the committee was drawing up and talking about, the wards and all that stuff, there was those are public meetings also.
Because I guess I'm confused, the ward is where people vote, like where we vote for you guys.
I'll give you this so you can see it. It's just basically a drawn out thing so that the town's divided equally as they can do. It's just so that you
So
don't
like,
have like 1,000.
everybody
people,
on
but-
Shady Lane can't vote, like neighborhoods can't all vote together.
It depends on
Yeah.
those boundaries.
This is nothing new to Dayton. Dayton has always had wards, just voting districts. The problem became when Indiana passed a law where, these areas had to be updated, okay? And the town missed one of those postings, so they kind of reverted back to a previous voting area that we had. So anyway, the board, after we went through that election, there are certain time periods that these changes can be made, and so the board, put together a committee to study, and the committee presented their recommendation. This is their recommendation. The ordinance that we read is their recommendation. So that's, fast forward, that's kind of where we are.
Okay, I was just curious, I'm like, that's really short notice, 48 hours for everybody in the community now.
Yeah, basically the wards are just updated to be more equal because before they didn't have, I don't think Deerfield added in, so it was like 800 people vote for this section, 300 for this section.
Yeah,
Now it's
as
like
the town
closer
grew
to
20
450.
years ago, it kind of got lopsided.
Okay. My last comment from a bystander that counts for the first time, I feel like there's a lot of you that are engaged and there's a lot of people that aren't engaged that are on their phone, people are talking.
Well, I'm responding to public comments.
So that's fine, I just feel like multiple times people have been talking, there's been side conversation, it's like, are you guys really listening?
Sure we are.
To what?
We take her seriously. I mean, we
Multitasking.
pay taxes here too. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably pay more taxes than most of you. I mean, be honestly. But when we really have a concern, we really like you to take it in, take in consideration, and really think about not just be like one-sided. Is what she's getting at.
Ma'am, if you have
She
something
does
to
marketing,
say,
so
you
she
can say
knows
it to me.
about playing
No, we
things.
don't have to whisper it, you can say it to me.
Are you
I guess
done?
I'll-
5 minutes?
Yeah, I guess I'm done, it's okay, I'm just curious. Now I see why you guys don't have people from the public come, because the way they're treated.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Me too.
That's okay, I won't vote for you.
I had a couple of questions about this ward thing. I'm Karen Howell, I live at 726 Main Street. I'm kind of new to this whole game, this is very different for me. What's the population of Dayton right now that you know of?
It's about 60.
Okay, a lot of high schools are that big. So I don't understand why there has to be separate voting communities. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me if my representatives live on my street or two of them live on another street. I don't really care. I just want the person who's best for the job, who's gonna represent the citizens of the community. I don't particularly care where they reside, as long as they reside in the town. I'm hoping that the decisions that you all make are in the best interest of Dayton, not in the best interest of your subdivision or your street. I mean, I'm hoping that that's what you guys do, is that you make good decisions for all the citizens of Dayton. So the whole idea of why we have to have separate groupings to vote for, I mean, if I wanted to vote for any of you, I feel like I should be able to do that. And if I don't want to vote for any of you, I should be able to do that. I don't understand why I could get compartmentalized in a small district, that I can only vote for the person who lives near me. I don't understand that. It doesn't seem to me like that would be in the best interest of representing my concerns about the town. I would rather vote for someone who lives in the town, not on a particular street. So.
Thank you.
Gordon Hardback, 7701 Adams Road. I've got a few questions. Back in March the 6th, I sent a certified letter to the town board. I also sent it to Butler, Fairman, and Seifert. also sent it to MC Development. In the long run, the letter said, you know, that you'd annex this, and we were worried because we live on a lower level, and you guys all know where we live, that we're in the lower part of it, and we'd like to be kept updated on what's going on. As I've been sitting through these meetings, now I think, does the town board still retain Butler, Fairman, BF and S? Do they still retain them, or are they, who's working on the drainage for the new subdivision? Is that still BF and S? They still are?
Yep. They'll be reviewing it on the town's part.
Right, okay.
For the town's interest.
We've not heard a thing from any of the three. I don't know, did all of you even get the letter?
Yes.
Didn't get it?
Yeah.
So, a couple of you got it, a couple didn't.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Okay.
I got it, but, and I have heard nothing on when they're doing that drainage.
Yes.
So,
Well, I've been talking to the Department of Natural Resources, plus IDEM, Indiana Department of Environmental Management. They told me that there's questions that I need to be asking, because like they say, it's up to the town of Dayton and whoever Dayton hires as a engineering group. And I would just like to know for sure if it's still BF&S, so I can stay in touch, because I've not heard nothing from here or, you know, I'm trying to find, because they said the questions that you need to ask is where does the water go? How's it gonna get to the creek? And there has to be a defined plan for storm water runoff. Well, Ashley will tell you this, we've already got problems down there with water, and I'm worried about water coming over the hill. I just wanna make sure that whatever they do it right, because there's 6 houses down there, and they all have basements, and that's what I'm concerned about. So he told me to ask these questions. I don't know whether you guys know, do we know where the drainage is at? Does anybody know?
When they present their drainage plan, those are one of many things that will be answered in that drainage plan. Those very items that you just
Yeah,
mentioned.
I haven't seen anything with the, I asked Gary Plant for your daughter, trying to get her information, got her in touch with Sally to figure out what it was, and I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it does study
these
yet.
things just don't happen overnight.
The surveyor
Yeah.
basically told me, he says, you know, Gordon, I got nothing to do with it. He says, that's up to the town board of Dayton. He says, they hire this engineer group to do it, and then they will approve it. He says, but since you live in the county, if you have a concern about water coming over, I actually work for you, and I can answer them. And I'm just trying to, I want to be kept informed. I don't want to wait till the last moment.
right.
I mean, once you get water over the hill, it's too late.
But they have not presented anything yet, so, you know, it may be.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but BF&S is required to come up with a plan where it puts less or no more than what's coming over that hill now.
Right.
That has to be part of the plan, or it's not a done deal.
Yeah, they won't approve it.
Because the man today on the phone, Doug Wolf, told me, he says, well, I see now that part of that land has been a problem, you know, it shows that your land, my land, Dr. Young's land can be susceptible to a lot of water. We just don't wanna make it worse, is what we're trying, you know, I just wanna keep it, because if they put it in and we get water over the hill, it's too late, you know, and nobody's ever said anything to me. Do I need to send this back where everybody gets that letter? Because I have it here, but I got a copy of it. If some people got it and some people didn't,
If Alex wants to copy, you can't use it.
I can copy it and I can bring it up and drop it off.
Do you wanna, would it email
Well, I can,
for you? I'm just giving you options, so you don't have to come up here either way.
yeah, 'cause I can copy it.
Can you get with BF&S tomorrow? Try to get a hold of
If you
them?
wanna get my phone number, I'll give it to you. And all, as soon as I just hear something,
Yeah, I think they're waiting
I'll
on
let you know, but
Gino.
same
I'm
boat
just-
as you, we don't.
I'm just,
we're
and
moving
like
forward.
the guy said today, you got 30-40% of that's gonna be under roof, gonna be under concrete, gonna be under streets, gonna be this. He said the water ain't gonna soak the ground, he said they gotta have a place for that water to run off, even though they got the ponds in there. He says retention ponds is correct, but they also gotta have them, if they run over, they gotta have a place to go. Where's it gonna go? You know, it's a half mile to curb, or better. See, that's, and I don't know whether that'd be on you guys or not. That's a lot of money running tile down there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that won't be on us, that's something that BNF is gonna figure out, and, the developer's gonna have to follow.
Well, the developer, you know, they submit the plan, and there's also state reviews of these also, so it's not just BF&S, but BF&S does a review on the town of Dayton's part.
Yeah, they said they gotta kind of do what the county wants, but still, he said the ultimate decision is up to you 5 people right there. And, you know, I just wanna make sure that,
And it is, we typically don't override county's decision on those. So,
yeah, and I mean, I don't, you know, I don't
depends on what it is, I don't know what it
If
would.
the county gives us an okay or a no, then we usually go with what the county.
Because where they're at, they're gonna have to all finger into one, if you take a tile clear the creek and getting all of that. I mean, you just can't run it on top of the ground. You don't want any more water on your land, I don't want none on mine.
Right.
You know, and that's just what I've got a concern about. Okay?
Hey,
Thank you.
I have email, if you wanna email me that, if you wanna come in,
Sure.
our printer's down, so if you give me either insulin and you want Thursday, that would be, I can guarantee you it'll be up and running then. Okay?
I'll either email or I'll just
Okay.
drop it off in the mail or something.
However works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else have comment? Tammy, you got anything?
Comment, the Greater Lafayette Chamber of Commerce has a meeting on August the 22nd about economic development in Tippecanoe County and, you know, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Greater Lafayette. Chamber will be there. There's also going to be some state speakers there. If any fellow board members can make it on August the 22nd or residents, it probably be worth sending out.
Where will that be, actually?
It's at 5 Points by Sheraton, and go to Greater Lafayette Chamber of Commerce's website. I believe it starts somewhere around noon time, and goes through the afternoon. It'd be a good meeting to see how West Lafayette and Lafayette's doing affects us. That's my comment.
Ron, you got anything?
That meeting was August the 16th, right? They closed door one for us.
Yes.
16th.
At 6 months.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey, thanks for coming.